very similar style. When it comes to hitting, we've worked together for a long time. I wouldn't bring him here if we didn't have similarities, but he has a lot to offer. I'm actually here to learn as well. Every time we're in a cage side by side, we kind of pick each other's brains. If you guys saw him when he walked in, first thing he did was start showing me videos. He's working right now at Butler State. He's the assistant softball girls over there. Recently retired. He what, 20 years?
In
Over in Fairlawn.
Well, I was a coach for 40 years in softball and baseball.
He's been around the block with us. But he's
Let's put it this way, I'm older than everybody here.
scientist of the game. That's what I appreciate about him. Always spitball and share ideas. I'm here to learn as well. Does anyone have this?
Well, I'll just give you a little background about what I teach. Like I said, my son played at Penn State, got drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals, played with the Cardinals, got injured. They released him, or they sold him to the Jackals, or gave him to the Jackals. He played 1 year with the Jackals, and then he got picked up by the Padres, went out to spring training, he's doing really well. He played Double-A team, then the Triple-A team, and then broke his shoulder. And they released him again. He came back to the Jackals, finished with the Jackals. Like Greg said, his number was retired. He broke all the hitting records there, breaking his records. But I'm coaching right now. I coached for 44 years at the high school level, baseball and softball. I've gone to clinics with some of the best hitting people in the world. I had a one-on-one with Mike Piazza. I had a one-on-one with Ted Williams. And I've learned some of the greatest softball hitting from a guy named Wally King. I have 3 gurus that I call, all hitting coaches. Greg being my 4th. The hitting gurus are a guy named Kelly Cooper with the Arizona Diamondbacks, Greg Lonegro with the Diamondbacks, and Tommy Shields he's now with the Atlanta Braves, in charge of all hitting, all minor league operations. I've learned from the best, and I've been studying this game from when my son was a sophomore in high school. Going into his sophomore year, he started getting all these letters. And he got letters not because of his hitting, but because of his speed. I don't know if you know speed, but in the 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.13, and in the 60-yard dash, 60-meter actually, he ran a 6.1. And in the pro baseball scales, they go 2 to 8, 2 being low and 8. Now, when your kids, high school kids, are being rated by professional scouts, they're being rated compared to professional players, not their age group. So a 2 to 8, if they get a 3 or a 4, that's the same as they would have rated a major league player. Well, his numbers in running were 8+ everywhere he went, off the charts. He was strong, and I taught him how to hit. And the reason is, when I learned about his speed, I turned him around, made him a switch hitter, and I told him to put the ball on the ground. Now, the year that he broke his hitting record with the New Jersey Jackals, I think of 142 hits in a season in an 85 or 90 game season, he had 37 bunt singles, okay? So I did the math one day and I took those 37 hits away, he would have batted like 230. So, and I think he won the league with a 360 or 358 batting average. He always had the stolen base record, he still holds that, but what I've learned and what I started to do when he was a sophomore in high school is I realized that he had potential to get to that level. And I started studying. Now, I was a softball coach at Fairlawn High School at the time, and I started studying hitting, like you can't believe. Like this maniac over here, I watch at least 20 videos every single day, sometimes the same videos. What I did, because I am in the Hall of Fame at Fairlawn, and was nominated up in Park Ridge, withdrew from Park Ridge. My claim to fame as Hall of Fame is in softball. But softball and baseball hitting are identical. There is no difference. If you get a coach that says the mechanics in softball and baseball are different, they're absolutely 150% incorrect. They have 500 coaches. And he and Mike Epstein were which is the guy he took under his wing, the first baseman for the Dodgers, they started a hitting school like Greg has here, similar to this size when they first started. And it grew and grew and grew. So they used to go and talk in clinics all over the United States. And they were at the clinic down in Cherry Hill, the best you can be, and they were talking, Ted Williams was in a wheelchair at the time. There were 500 coaches, and they started talking about girls softball being a different swing. I raised my hand like the idiot that I am in front of 500 coaches, and I said, I hate to differ with you, but they're identical mechanical swings, okay? So they went on with their speech and everything, and at the end of the thing, and all the coaches are leaving, Mike Epstein ran up the aisle and said, hey, coach, with the red hat, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, sure. So I went over, I talked to him, he says, Mr. Williams wants to speak to you. And I said, what? I said, what the hell did I do? He goes, well, he just wants to ask you about what your opinion was. So I explained to him how the mechanics are the same. And today, if you Google softball, fast pitch softball versus baseball, a video will come up comparing the best hitter in Major League Baseball 2 years ago with the best hitter in girls softball, a girl from Arizona. And the swings are identical. The only difference is that in baseball, the ball's coming down, and in softball, the ball's coming up. So in this situation, staying on the path of the ball is very important, okay? And I'm gonna go over what I teach real quick. And the point is that in baseball and softball, all the mechanics of the rotational swing are identical. Lower half rotation, back heel, so hitting off of a stiff front side, back elbow coming to the body line, extending through the ball, getting that A-frame, head down on contact. All of those things are the same. But in baseball, you got to level out a little bit earlier to get onto that plane of the pitch, because if you don't, if you continue to swing down, what you do in baseball, you start at the top of the strike zone and you come down to the ball, you have to get on that plane a little bit quicker. So instead of leveling out at contact, they level out about 3 inches before contact. Okay? That's the only difference in baseball versus softball. Everything else is identical. The grip, the 45-degree, and if you watch, Kelly Cooper, a hitting coach for the Arizona Diamondbacks, said to me, do yourself a favor, and you might want to do this one night, just for the hell of it. Take a piece of cardboard, put it on your TV, and cut out just where the batter is. Don't watch anything else. Watch it for 2 innings and tell me what you see. All right, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. What you're going to see is every single hitter gets into that same launch position. 45, what we call the C factor, slight bend in the knees, slight lean forward, bad back, exactly the way he hit. Exactly the way my son hit. Years ago, 15 years ago, linear versus rotational hitting. Those are the two styles of hitting. Linear, rotational. Linear used to be all lines, straight lines to the ball. Ted Williams hit linear. He would lunge his body at the ball. Today they teach lunging with no head movement. So it's really not a lunge. It's actually a toe tap where the body and the foot move. You'll see guys do this, you'll see guys do this, they'll start open and close, but the head stays still, okay? And the reason the head has to stay still is because if it's moving forward with your body, like Ted used to hit, you're trying to see a moving ball with moving eyes. Very difficult to do. And today, 15 years ago, when every major league pitcher, every major league team had one pitcher that threw in the mid-90s, now every single pitcher on their staff throws in the mid-90s. In fact, there are 7 to 11 in the past 3 years that have pitchers that throw over 100 miles an hour. That's how long you have to see the ball out of his hand to when it hits your bat or misses your bat. Okay, so what I'm going to teach, what age group do we teach here? What are we coaching? All age groups?
Mostly Little League.
Little League mostly? Okay. Well, I'm going to keep this simple then, okay? Because hitting is a science, all right? And Ted Williams wrote The Science of Hitting. And if you read that book, I believe in his first edition, I don't know if you can get it unless you get online, but in his first edition, he wrote, if I was hitting today, I would never touch these pitchers because of the way he hit. But I disagree with him, because he was the exception to the rule. Okay? He had 20/15 eyesight. So he could see a ball come out of a pitcher's hand, and within 1/100th of a second, he could see the spin on the ball. And he could tell you exactly where the ball was going to land or finish. All right? And every hitter, okay, has to look at 3 things once the ball comes out of the pitcher's hand. And these are golden rules. When I say a golden rule, I mean every single great hitter in baseball and softball does this. They look at what we call the SSL factor. S meaning speed, second S is spin, and third S is the location. And third letter is the L for location. Now speed, spin, and location. If you see the spin on the ball, that will help you with the location of it. So if a ball is coming at you and spinning away from you, you know the ball is going to break away. If it's spinning into you, you know it's going to break into you. But here's the key. If you don't pick up the speed, forget about the spinning location because you're lost. You're done. All right? Especially with guys and girls. I mean, think about this. A girl softball player throwing 70 miles an hour, which they do. The better ones throw 75 miles an hour underhand from 43 feet away. A baseball pitcher throwing 95 miles an hour from 60 feet away, you have, as a hitter, you have 4/10 of a second from when that ball comes out of the pitcher's hand to when it gets into the hitting zone. In girls softball, if she's throwing 75 miles an hour underhand from 43 feet, you have less than 3/10 of a second to react to the ball. So, in baseball, you actually have more than 1/10 of a second to react, which is a lifetime in hitting. All right, and I tell my girls that when you're seeing pitching that fast, blink your eyes, because that's how fast you have. Hitters today, the advanced hitters today, are trained not to track the ball from release to contact. The better hitters today, if you watch them on TV, if you slow down your video, they look at the release, and as the ball comes out of their hand, and they see that speed, they picked up the speed, it's a fastball as opposed to a changeup or off speed, they'll now focus right on the hitting where they think the ball is going to be. And 85% of the time, they're right. Okay, so they don't even try to track a 9,500 mile an hour fastball. It's impossible. It looks like a pig. So in that realm, these guys are now trained to see, decide, and now look to the hitting spot. So that's advanced stuff. We don't teach our kids that. We teach our kids to track the ball from release to contact. Very important. Okay, so what I'm going to show you, what I've learned in the past 12 years is exactly what they're teaching at the highest levels of baseball and softball today. Okay? Years ago, when Ted Williams played, I'm going to tell you, I'm not much younger than him, but when I'm almost 70 years old, these guys had 3 things that they relied on. Okay? Step into the ball. There's your lunge, which they don't teach anymore. Back elbow up, which they don't teach anymore. And swing level, which they don't teach anymore. All right? And the reason you don't swing level is because if you get onto that plane already, you cannot change the plane of the bat in your swing. It's impossible. So what happens is that if that ball isn't on that plane, you miss it. Okay? But and the ball's coming down, remember. So they used to call that golden moment in time, that perfect moment in time. The ball's coming from here, your bat's coming from here. If you don't level out a little bit earlier than contact, you're going to have this perfect moment in time maybe once every 10 or 15 games. Okay? Because the best hitters in the world, miss the spot on the ball that they're trying to hit 85% of the time. And why do you hear coaches say, hit the top half of the ball? Because they're going to miss it 85% of the time. And they're going to always miss low. Why? Because gravity. In baseball, when you level out right before contact, the bat now is level, and now gravity is actually working at a higher rate to pull the barrel down. You're too strong to let the gravity pull your hands down. So what happens is the barrel will start coming down. And therefore, you miss your spot on the ball, and you usually miss it. A lot of balls are fouled off backwards. That's a big miss. That's not even a little miss. That's a big miss. So what happens is that we take the science part of it and we apply it to hitting, okay? Like Ted Williams did. Because Ted Williams wrote that book many years after he finished the game, all right? And when I say that he was the exception to the rule, he was. He and a guy like Pete Rose, one of the worst mechanical swingers in the world. He had great eyesight and unbelievable eye-hand coordination. I mean, he could hit a ball that bounced 3 feet in front of him for doubles, because that's how he tracked the ball. Okay, so when I teach the basics, okay, I start out with my launch position first, okay? In the launch position, I have 9 steps to my launch position. I'm just going to grab the launch position is what we call the Z factor. The Z factor is getting good bend and good flexion in your body. Okay? When you have hitters that start up straight, okay? When you watch them, if you watch them on TV, you watch these guys that do this, or remember, who was it? Joe Morgan used to do this with his arm, okay? But as soon as that pitcher steps back, this is what I told you about cutting the thing out on the TV, putting the cardboard just on the hitter. Every single one of them, before the ball comes out of the pitcher's hand, they're in this position. 45, slight bend in the knees, slight bend in the waist. If you look at my body, we call it the Z factor. 1, 2, 3. That gives you flexion to the ball and rotation to the ball. Okay? Let's get into the 9 steps in order. And I'm going to go through them quick. 1, the grip. Well, everybody says, what the hell is the grip? Big deal on the grip. Well, if the bat is in your palm, okay, we call that choking the bat, okay, choking the grip. What happens is that when you're ready to snap through at the end, the hand of the palm will not allow you to snap quick. So therefore, that extension through the ball isn't going to happen. So what most kids wind up doing is shortcutting it. Greg brought it to my attention, one of his hitters tonight, who's come a long way, but he's still hitting and not getting through the ball. He's rotating his hands. Why? The first thing I looked at is his grip. His grip is in the palm of his hands. So what you want to do, like every golfer and every tennis player, is hold the bat in your fingers so that the middle knuckles on your hands line up. That's number 1, the grip. All right, now, what I also do, and I take it one step further, if you notice my hands, the knuckles of the knock that you knock on the door are lined up. If you notice, there's still a V in my wrists. What I do is, and this is something that Ted Williams said in his book, and many guys, I mean, Don Mattingly in his book, Tony Oliva, all those guys who wrote the great hitting books. Try to bring your wrists together and overlap your wrist. And he did this all the time. And when I watched him do it his first year, he doesn't know this, but when I watched how quick his hands got through the strike zone, I told my son to do it, all right? And what you do is you take those wrists and you bring them together so that now the elbows come a little bit closer. Because we don't want winging it, we want the elbows and the arms down on the body. So number 1 is the grip. Number 2, this is all outside the batter's box before they get in. Put the bat on your shoulder, rest your arms on your body, and get your hands, the bat, all the way up by your chin so you can almost touch your chin with your top hand. You don't want the hands down here because then you're going to load them. You want it right up here. But remember, we don't want to wing it. We want the arms down on the body. Number 3, if I'm a righty, my knob should face first base. All right, now, when a kid loads later, he gets into this position, the new advanced way is called the power load. You want to try to take the knob and get it back to the catcher. That gives you more cock in your wrist to snap through at the end. So we'll go over that later. So now you got number 1, the knuckles. Number 2, the bat is on your shoulder, hands up on the chin, arms down on your body. Bat should make about a 45-degree angle. You don't want a flat bat, you don't want it up straight. Number 3, the knob should face first base for a righty, third base for a lefty. Number 4, stepping into the batter's box. Number 4 is called plate coverage. Where do I want to stand? Do I want to be in close, or do I want to be way back here? Well, the experienced pitchers are taught to look for that. If you're in close, where they're going to throw? They're going to throw right at your front elbow. If you're back here, where they're going to throw, they're going to throw outside and make you lunge at the ball. So you got to have good plate coverage. The golden rules are 1 foot length away, which is okay. If you have small feet, you're in trouble. Or 1 bat length. And what they do is you'll see a lot of batters get into the batter's box and they'll do this. Okay? There's your distance away from the plate. Now, when I do my perfect swing, I can cover that outside part of the plate or the inside part of the plate with the meat of the bat. That's number 4. We're talking about rotational hitting now. Okay? Number 5, how wide should our feet be? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you see kids striding like this, stop them right away. I know he doesn't teach that, and that's why we're so compatible, is because he teaches exactly the way he taught. When we did the camp, he was in one cage, I was in the next. Every time he talked to a kid, I listened, and every time I talked to the kid, he laughed at me and said, "You're too old to know anything." No, he didn't say it. But he listened. And we learned from each other. We really did. But what happens is that you don't have that plate coverage and you don't have that width. Remember, and this is what I tell my kids, the younger kids. Why doesn't a tree fall over? Because the base is in the ground. It's the roots. And the trees that the roots go straight down, they're the ones that get blown over in the wind. But the trees that have the roots that expand, they're the ones that are stable, okay? And what we want is a good balance on our swing. So the golden rule here is at least 1 bat width is about the width. You can be a little bit further, but try not to be too narrow because then you lose balance on finish, okay? That's number 4. That's number 5. Number 6, my feet. Okay, now, if I use this line and both my feet are on that line, that's called a regular stance. If I take my front foot and move it away, and you'll see a lot of hitters today start with an open stance. And then because what that does is it opens their body, they get to see the pitcher. Because most kids, when they get into this stance, they don't turn their head far enough, and they're not seeing the pitcher with their dominant eye. Their dominant eye is in the back. So what I do with my hitters to make sure that their heads are turned is I'll say to them, all right there, Billy or Sally, take your right hand and cover up take your left hand and cover up your front eye. And here's what 95% of them will do. They'll turn their head because they're not even seeing the pitcher with their back eye. So you got to give the hand. And if you ever watched Mark Teixeira for the Yankees, he had his chin right on his front shoulder because he had a very strong right eye and a very weak left eye. So you got to get the head turned. But the stance, the width, this is a regular stance. This doesn't give the pitcher anything to work with because they don't know whether you want to hit to the opposite field or they don't know whether you want to pull it. But if I get up in this stance, what am I telling the pitcher? I want to hit the ball out there. So what does the pitcher do? They throw out there, okay? If I get into a closed stance, that's when the front foot is closer to home plate. Now I'm telling the pitcher, I want to let that ball get in here and hit it like a middle pitch, hit it to right field. So we don't give the pitchers anything to work with. So make sure your stance is level or regular, okay? But remember, 1 bat width away. Now, in the batter's box, where do I teach my baseball players to hit? Front foot, even with the front of home plate. Okay? My softball players, I teach them my back foot, even with the back of home plate. Now, we're going to get off track a little bit. For the people taking notes, you don't have to take this note. But, anybody ever notice that a softball batter's box is different than a baseball?
Yes, sir.
They're not the same?
Yes.
Okay? In baseball, it's 3 back and 3 forward. In softball, it's 3 back and 4 forward. Why? It's a bigger ball, causes more friction, and the ball will break a lot quicker than a baseball will, even though they're only from 43 feet away. A baseball will break usually right around in here. A softball will break up here. So if I'm back in the batter's box, I'm swinging over every breaking ball. Okay? Now I'm going to just ask one question, see if anybody knows how to answer this question. Okay? I'm just breaking it up a little bit. What's the best way to hit the curveball? Be quiet. Very close.
Stay back.
Don't miss the fastball, okay? Because what gets people out? Are you going to throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball past Judge? No, I don't care how big he is, Neanderthal man or not. He's going to catch up to you. Every great hitter will catch up to any fastball you have. It might take one time through, but pitchers are trying to fool you. Fastball's not going to fool you, okay? The breaking balls do. Out of all strikeouts in baseball, 70% of them are on off-speed breaking balls, okay? So, what do we want to try to do is learn how to hit the breaking ball. But that was just a little... Now we got that wide stance. The next number is feet should be level, toes should be pointing forward. That's number 6. We don't want our feet out because that takes your weight and brings it outside your base. Or we do want the feet straight or possibly a little toe, a pigeon toe. That brings your weight inside your base. Okay, number 7, now we get into the Z factor. Slight bend in the waist, in the knees. Number 8, slight bend in the waist, bringing my shoulders over my knees. Now we call this the straight line. The straight line is that my shoulder, my knee, and my toe are all going to make a straight line. Okay? Now, some will bend a little bit more, some will bend a little bit less. But they have to be comfortable in their stance. So we call that the Z factor. So if you were taking pictures from the front of the back, my body would look like a Z. Here, boom, boom. Okay? Now, this bend is very important. Greg and I were talking, and we watched a couple of the hitters, and when they finished their swings, they popped up, and where did it bring their weight? All the way back. And if I'm going to hit the ball, I want all of my weight coming down into the ball. I don't want my weight pulling away from the ball. All right? Plus, a right-handed batter, you don't want your weight back here and have to shift it to run. You want all your weight going into the pitch. So that bend, as we do our rotation, okay, we want to keep the bend when we finish. So this is your finish. Leaning in, slight bend in the back leg, straight leg in the front, hitting off the stiff front side. We'll get into that when we finish the launch position. I'll give you the 3 basic steps to the swing. So now we got all the way up to number 8 with the shoulders over the knees. Number 9, and this is where it becomes difficult for kids. When they load or get their back off their shoulder, a lot of them will do this. They'll get their hands out here, or they'll get their hands too high, or they'll get their hands too low. So the golden rule is, lift it up 1 inch off your shoulder, and follow the plane, the path of the bat, all the way back to when your front hand, your bottom hand, is behind your right ear. So you're back here. So now you're in actually a preload position. This does not teach loading as an effect. So what happens is you'll see a lot of hitters do this, and they'll get ready and then they'll load during the swing. That's later on after we teach them all the 3 basic moves to the swing. So the 9 steps are knuckles, number 1. 2, bat on your shoulder, elbows and arms down on your body, knuckles lined up, bat at 45, hands under your chin, so you can just about touch your chin, your top thumb, knob facing first for a righty, third for a lefty. Number 4, plate coverage, at least 1 foot or 1 bat length away. Number 5, make sure your front foot's even with the front of home plate. Number 5, how wide? 1 bat length is good for rotational hitting. Number 6, toes should be straight or slightly turned in. 7, slight bend in the knees. 8, slight lean forward, getting the shoulders over the knees. And number 9, the load, up and back. So now, if you watch, like I told you, cut out that piece of cardboard and put it on the TV, every single one of the hitters with their bodies, not so much with their backs, because they'll get their back into that 45 when they're ready to launch it. Their bodies, almost so identical. And after I did this test, after he called me up, Kelly Cooper, and said, do that, and I watched the game for 3 innings, he said, what did you see? I said, well, I'll tell you one thing, you didn't see the damn game because you had me covering up the freaking game. But he said, no, what did you see in the hitters? I said, every single guy gets into the same position. He does exactly right. Every great hitter does. Okay? So most people call it the stance. hitting coaches call it the launch position. Okay? The 3 steps to hitting. You've heard this possibly in the past, but the 3 H's. Anybody know what they represent? Body parts.
You said 3 H's for
Hands.
sorry, hitting?
Yeah.
Hips, hands, and head?
Nope, heads.
Heel.
Heel.
Very good. Heel, hips, and hands in that order. Okay? This moves first, which causes the rotation. We call this, okay? Tommy Shields for the St. Louis Cardinals at the time, and I still talk to him. He's now with the Braves, minor league operations. He said this is the key that opens up the door. Okay? I want you to do a rotational swing. Put your feet flat on the ground and swing as fast as you can, and don't move your feet off the ground. Then call your wife or your girlfriend and say, please call the doctor because I just tore my whole thigh out. Okay? What happens is that now I've had 16 knee surgeries in my lifetime. Okay? 3 knee replacements. That one's been done twice. Okay? I'm a riot at the airports. Okay? But nobody realized that from 1975 when I had my first coaching job, I've been coaching every year since. Never stopped. So, my doctors say, slow the hell down because your body's going to break down. Well, I told them, when that happens, I'll quit. It hasn't happened yet. All right? But what happens is that when I rotate from here, I'm going to show you the rotation, and I'm going to stop when I actually feel that pain in here. You ready? Right there, I feel it right here. Now, my hip has gone 1/8 of the distance that it's supposed to go. Now I'm going to snap that heel, and I want you to watch where this hip ends and this barrel. Did everybody see where the barrel ended? Right there. Now, can I swing from there and hit the ball? Yeah, if I'm an upper body swinger, because this isn't going. This is my power. This is my speed. And the formula to hitting is power plus speed equals impact of ball off bat. They have to work together. Okay? So now I'm going to snap the heel and watch how far this hip goes. No pain at all. Okay? So that is the key that opens up the revolving door. Okay? With that heel, this will follow. This will follow, so will this. As this goes in this direction, this is automatically going to go in that direction. So, one of the hitting coaches for the Cleveland Indians, actually when they won more than they lost, taught me that there are 3 steps to that particular first H, which is the heel. Okay? And the 3 steps are the snap, drive, and lock. Now the snap, drive, and lock is this. As I snap the heel, take this knee and drive it into your body. And this leg, believe it or not, will automatically lock because this hip is going in that direction. So now I have a locked front leg, bend in the back, and there's your finish. Okay? But hitting off of a stiff front side is very important because it's like punching a wall or punching a net. You're going to get no impact if you punch that net, but go punch the wall and you'll feel the impact. Well, that's the stiff front side, that wall. Okay? We don't want our bodies, and when we bend that front leg, and I see a lot of hitters, beginning hitters do this, as they swing and they stop, they collapse like this. Okay? So there's no power in that swing. All right? So that's the first H. There's 3 parts to the first H. Snap, drive, and lock. Okay? Now, you can actually stand over here when your student is doing it and take a bat and just put it on their front knee, and as they do it, just push it in. And they'll feel like you don't need to push, it'll automatically lock. And it does, because they work together. The next thing is the hip, but the hip and the heel work together. As this starts to move, this will follow. And what you want to try to do is finish with this hip right in the middle of your feet, right there. Now I got full thrust through the ball. And the last thing that goes, and I've heard him say this a million times in camp, keep your hands back. The last thing to move are your hands. But here's what happens. When we swing, kids do this. Okay? And they launch that bat, and it's a long rotation. So from here to here, it takes a long time to get there. What we want is a short, compact swing. And believe it or not, there were 2 people that I watched in my lifetime, excellent, in keeping their hands inside their body. Actually 3. One being Derek Jeter. That guy had an inside-out swing. He could take a ball on his chest and hit it to right field. 2 was him, okay? And then 3, because I watched him, was my son. So I learned from him before he even knew my name, okay? And it was good because when I watched him play the game, he was doing all the things that I was learning, okay? And, you know, he needed some work on things. Every hitter needs work. Every hitter. Every hitter goes out every day trying to improve from the day before. But the 3 steps after the hands move, it's important that you teach rotation of the hands, not movement. You don't move your hands, okay, until the knob of this bat is facing the direction of the pitcher. Now I'm going to do a slow motion swing right now, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Most kids, when they're ready to hit, even if they have good lower half, and I'm not going to work on the lower half right now, I'm just going to work on this. They'll do this. They'll swing. That's what it's called, a swing. But we don't call it a swing anymore. We call it a whip. You're taking this part of the bat and you're letting it rotate with your body. So if I was to put my hands on my shoulder, okay, and when I taught Zach how to hit lefty, he was a junior in high school, okay, and he had a hitch. He dropped his hands. And I said, we got to correct that hitch. So I said, knucklehead, come here. Put the bat on your shoulder. Don't take it off your shoulder. You're hitting lefty. If you put the ball in play, you're going to beat it out no matter what. Don't worry about where your hits go. Just worry about putting the ball in play. And his first 3 hits, lefty, in his junior year of high school, were little swinging bunts that they didn't even make a throw. But what he did is he hit off of his shoulder. He put the bat right here and just, boom, just hit. Because he couldn't drop his hands. So that's one way of correcting a drop in the hands. Tell the kid to hit from here. And you can hit. It's very easily done. Just hit from here. It's an explosion. So, what happens is that as the hands start to rotate, we don't move the barrel. Alright? We let the hands rotate with the body. Now, right here, my knob is facing the pitcher. Now I bring the knob and barrel to my ball. Okay? Remember, hands first, barrel second. Okay? Hands lead the barrel, the body leads the hands. The hands are the last H to move. Heel, automatically the hip will follow, but we can still hold our hands back. I do a drill, I call it the separation drill. I tell my hitters to put a ball on the table, and I even toss it to them, and I tell them, I get them up, and I say, snap, and they snap, and they hold the hands back, and then hit, okay, and they explode. Now, it's a much weaker hit because they're not using that first part of the formula. Power plus speed equals impact the ball off bat. So they're just hitting with their upper body. So what happens is that if we teach movement right away, you get that long looping swing. Very long. And the shortest between 2 points is?
Straight line.
Straight line, okay? So if I want to take this barrel from here to here, is this a straight line?
Nope.
No, okay? Is this?
Yep.
Yes, right to the wall. And you've heard the hitting coaches say, chop the tree down, okay? Why do we chop the tree? Because we're swinging from high to low. Why does a person, a tree specialist or scientist, why do they chop at an angle? Because they don't want the tree to fall in any direction. Plus, here's the science part of it, gravity's working with them. They're swinging down, so gravity's pulling this down into the tree. But once they level out that axe, and this weighs 15 pounds, gravity's going to pull it underneath the ball. So you got to always, and he preaches this more than I do, swing down through the ball. Because when we hit a ball, and I want you to watch this, I had a girl at Montclair. She was swinging level. And where she was hitting the ball, was right here every time. And the ball was causing what I call the helicopter. We don't want a helicopter, we want liftoff. We want a jet taking off at an airport. So when that jet takes off, it starts to lift and go up. Well, what happens is that when you hit below the ball, or swing level and miss the middle of the ball, and hit here, the ball will take off like a helicopter. We want liftoff. And here's what happens. I'm going to put my fingers and make an axis through this ball. If I hit down through the ball, with the power and speed that these kids are swinging at today, it will create backspin off the ball, because the bat will finish underneath the ball, causing backspin. And that's what causes lift, okay? But the lower we hit on the ball will cause the helicopter move. If I hit down here, it's going to pop straight up in the air. If I hit just above middle and middle, now the bat will finish below the ball and backspin. If I hit on the top of the ball, that's a big miss. So the big misses are here and here. In here, and they say, the width of the thumb is your target. If I hit right at the top line of my thumb, I'm going to hit a hard ground ball. Not a weak ground ball, a hard ground ball. If I hit just below my thumb, I'm going to hit one of those lifts that are going to take off even faster and quicker. Those are your home run or your gap balls. But if I hit in the middle of the thumb, that's a line drive off the bat. And this is what we want. Right here. Top thumb, middle thumb. Bottom thumb causes lift. Anything below the thumb line is an out. Usually. Okay? So, in this realm of hitting, let's make it simple. We don't want difficulty. The 9 steps that I gave you, and this is what I do with every new lesson. When they come to me for the first time, they don't hit a ball for 3 weeks. And I tell them that right away. Because, as an example, I'm going to give you a good scenario here. A good analogy. How many have young kids here? Close to driving. Maybe driving already. Okay? When they were ready to drive, and they came to you and said, "Hey, Dad, let me have the keys." "What? Let me have the keys. I want to drive. I'm 16 and a half years old. Are you going to give them the keys?" I wouldn't. Okay? And the reason is that they're not ready to drive. Okay? When they get into the box and they have this weird style of hitting, their launch position is way off, and they're not getting into that Z-factor launch position, they're not going to be able to hit consistently. Any person can get up with the worst swing in the world and swing a bat and luckily hit the ball and it will go somewhere. But the key is to give them a better opportunity to be successful. So putting them into a good launch position is very crucial. Okay? After you teach them the launch position, and they don't hit a ball off of a tee until they're in a good launch position. And if it takes 3 weeks, it takes 3 weeks. Okay? But once they do, now I teach them those 3 steps to hitting. Heel, hips, hands. Okay? And in that order. Heel, remember the 3 steps. Snap, drive, and lock. The hip will follow, the hands stay back. All right? And once we get them into that position, I'm going to show you a slow motion, what they call a picture book swing. Now, who called it this? Mike Piazza. All right? And what happened was, my story about Mike Piazza, real quick, was I was at camp about 8 years ago, and a father came up to me at the end of the week. I wasn't directing, I was the hitting instructor, and he wasn't working with us yet. And the father came up to me at the end of the week and he says, "Coach, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I want you to instruct my son. I watched you all week long." I said, "Okay, who's your son?" He goes, "Alessandro." I said, "Who's Alessandro?" Well, the kid was 5 years old. In camp, he lied, all right? Supposed to be 8, I think, right? Well, he lied. The kid was big for his age. I said, "That's kind of young." He says, "Just do me a favor. Take a look at it real quick, and if he's not into it, I'll wait for you to tell me to come back." I said, "All right." So I looked at the kid, and he was tunnel vision, this kid. He just paid attention to every word I said. So I said to the father, and the kid got into the batter's box, no lie, like this. And I said to him, "Looks like your son's taking a dump in the woods here." I mean, you know, he says, "Yeah," but I said, he was in camp. We did the running first base. He was like one of the fastest kids at 5 years old. I said, he's fast. Yes, he's very fast. I said, okay. Would you mind if I turned him around and made him a lefty? He said, what? I said, let me make him a lefty. He said, all right. So I made him a lefty. And we worked year after year. All right, the kid was 5. At 7 years old, I took a video of him, and his father's best friend was Anthony Scaramucci. Anybody know that name? Okay? The big investment guy who was hired by Trump twice and fired. Now he's against Trump. He's a multi-billionaire. Okay? He owns, at the time, he owned 20% of the Mets. Okay? So, he shows him the video of his son. He goes, holy Christ, where did he learn how to hit? And I said, Conway. No, he said, I'm hungry. He said, some hidden instructor from Nike camp. He works out of Fairlawn and Verona. He said, I'd like to show this video to Mike Piazza, because Scaramucci and Piazza are partners. They own a soccer team in Italy together. So he said, sure. So when he showed it to Mike Piazza says, I want to talk to the city coach. So I got invited to Mike Piazza Day at City Field when his number was retired, and I stayed in Scaramucci's private box. Mike came in, we sat down, and we talked for 45 minutes about hitting. And he told me to my face, all right, he said, if I would have hit like that, seriously, I would have hit another 150 home runs. Because he could never swing with his lower half, because in football in high school, he tore his Achilles tendon in his trail foot, and he could never spin off of it. He said, but, whatever you're doing. About 2 months later, the kid's father and myself were called in by Scaramucci and Piazza, and we were told that they wanted to open a hitting school. I was going to conduct all the hitting, and Ray, the father, is a weightlifting guy. He would have done the weight training. And I said, no, I don't want to do this. I'm retiring. I have a Jewish wife. I don't want to be getting involved with this stuff. I told them that I would still help them. But that's how I got involved with Piazza. And what he said is, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because it's perfect swing. The kid right now is 12 years old, playing on the 14U national team. Okay? And the kid is, last year, for the national team, they played in Puerto Rico, Venezuela, they played in France, they played in Canada, and they played in Cuba. And the kid in those 5 tournaments, or 6 tournaments, the kid hit like over 500 against 14-year-olds. So, the kid's doing something right. All I told the father was, don't let him burn out. So, these are the basics. These are the things that you should be teaching your new player. Kids that get into the batter's box like this, okay? Get them into a good launch position. One of the things that I studied, and Greg picked up on this, I think he knew it too, but you know, a lot of hitting coaches like to hit, like to see their kids hit. But what happens is that when my kids first start swinging the bat at a ball, okay, what they do is, I hit my first bucket, my first 15 minutes of every 45-minute lesson, we do slow motion swinging. Does anybody know why we do slow motion? This is something I learned as being a phys ed and health teacher. I had to study all the sciences, kinesiology, physiology of exercise, anatomy, biology, because the muscles learn 10 times quicker in slow motion than they do in fast motion. That's why you'll see a golfer get up at their practice swing, and they'll swing nice and slow, regenerating muscle memory. That's why you see a tennis player come out and warm up, hit real nice and easy, because they're regenerating muscle memory. Not that they have to, because once muscle memory kicks in, and it takes what they say, the 10,000 rule, just look up, Google the 10,000 rule. Any skill that you're ever going to learn, even chess moves, takes 10,000 moves before it actually sinks in, okay? So, what happens is in slow motion swinging, you take that 10,000 swings, and you can bring it down to 1,000 or 1,500. If they repeat it. If they come to me and don't do another thing until they come to me next week, it'll take 10,000 swings. But I tell my kids to go home and just swing slow, nice and slow. Just swing slow, generate muscle memory. Short-term muscle memory will kick in. I'll put up 30 balls, and then the kids will get up. They'll close their eyes and hit the ball. Why? Because muscle memory's kicked in. All right? When I just hit that ball, I had my eyes closed. Did I hit it?
Yeah. Routine.
So what happens is that all of these things about science are unbelievable. It's really something. The hands in, the elbow to the... Watch every hitter. When they hit this back elbow, boom, right into here. There's where your strength is. Not out here. Out here slows your swing down. So those 9 steps into preparing to hit, and those 3 steps to hitting, work on them. I watched Greg work the wall drill. That beats that big, long, looping swing. A wall drill is this. I don't want to give you beautiful stuff. But what happens is you take the bat, you put it right up against the wall. You tell them, you let them hold it with their stomach. Now you get the bat here, and you tell a kid to swing. 99.999% of them that have never taken a lesson will do this, and they'll hit the wall. But if you swing the right way and let the hands rotate with the body, you'll come right through and never hit the wall. So if I did it fast, you'll never hit the wall. That's keeping your hands inside. And that's where you get your speed and your rotation. Any questions? Started getting letters from every college in the United States about track and baseball. He got a call. He was a winter track runner. I told him he wrestled, didn't like it. Played basketball, he'd always get into fights. So I said, go run winter track for Christ's sake. And that's when he was a sophomore. And I said, now we found out that he was fast. I mean, I knew he was quick. I didn't know he was that fast. So he went to winter track. He ran the 60 meter, the 200, the 300, and the 400. In his senior year of high school, he had the best time in the 300 in the nation until a kid from Hawaii beat him. He had one of the top 10 times in the nation in the 60 meters. And when he qualified for all 4 events in the national tournament, you were only allowed to run in 2. He picked the 60, he picked the 200 and the 400. And the reason he said why, he said, Dad, because if you don't get a start in the 60, no matter how fast you are, you're done. Because the kids that I'm running against are all 6'2", 6'3" runners, even 6'1" runners. So that one tenth of a second, if you don't get a good start, you're done. In the 200 and the 400, he can make it up if he gets a bad start. So he did that. He got a call from Stanford University. And I told my wife, listen, we're getting so many frequent calls. If a coach calls, just say he's at the batting cages. So one night, I'm walking in from lessons, and the phone rings. I pick it up, oh, goes, hi, this is Coach Connell, or Coach Connors from Stanford. And I went, Stanford, out in California? He goes, yes. He goes, I'd like to talk to Zach. I said, Zach's at the batting cages. He goes, that's too bad. He's at the batting cages. He goes, I'm the track coach. I said, oh, okay. He says, tell your son, I can't call him back for another 48 hours, but if he comes in tonight, we're 3 hours different. If he comes in tonight, you can call me till 1 o'clock your time. He said, just tell him this. Tell him that if he comes to Stanford, he'll run in the next Olympics. I said, why? He says, his 200 and 400 time are better than our 200 and 400 time here, and both of these kids are Olympic runners. Zach came home, we told him to call him. Sue and I sat in the other room with our ears up against the wall, and we heard him say, sorry, Coach, I'm a baseball player. And I said, oh my God, this is nuts. So he went to baseball. He took baseball. And I'm glad he did, because we got to meet people like him. And you know what? I've loved every minute of it. But when he started getting all those letters, I started studying him like no other person. And like him, I know for a fact that he watches videos every day. Every day. And the more videos you watch, the more you're going to learn. And the more you watch the videos, the more you're going to learn that these guys all do basically the same thing. Might not look like it, but they all get into that perfect launch position. Every one of them. And the first thing that moves is that lower half, and then they just explode. That's why we call it the launch position. We don't want to swing the bat. We want to launch the bat. All right? It's like a can. It's like a bullet coming out of the gun. And that's the key. So all the things about science teach us that we got to get that barrel to that part of the ball, to that part of the hitting zone as quick as possible. So, you know, I'm here for him whenever he wants it. He's a close friend. I love him like a son. And like I said, like he said, if I didn't, he could love me like a dad, but if I didn't teach the same thing he teaches, I wouldn't be here tonight. And what he's teaching is the top. It's what every top hitter is being taught today. All those different mechanics. Elbow to the body, hands rotate with the body. Knob first, hand barrel last, rotate the lower half. Get off that stiff front side. And you'll see the best hitters in the world do it wrong. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to get fooled. Because the pitcher's job is to fool you. Your job is to not let them fool. So then we teach all about hitting counts, situational hitting. You know, an 0-2 count is not the same swing as a 2-0 count. Okay? 2-0, you can look for your pitch. 0-2, you got to protect. Shorten up the bat. Move a little bit closer to the plate. Do these things. And then there's the fifth tool. Does everybody know what the tools are to baseball and softball, the 5 tools?
Yep.
Yes?
Yep. Speed, throwing, fielding, batting for average, batting for power.
There you go. And what's the 6th?
I guess instinct or okay. All right.
Okay, and here's what happens. At the highest levels that he played at, and here's the biggest mistake. Anybody know the name Augie Garrido? All right, he was the head coach of Texas. Zach played against him in the regionals in 2002, I think. Sorry, super regionals. Sorry, you go. Sorry, but he said that the biggest mistake that coaches make at the highest level is they work 80% skills and 20% head. Should be the other way around. Those guys, if they're there, if they're playing at Texas, they have the skills. Now you got to mess around with your head. You got to work your head, because the head is the one thing that messes up most hitters, most athletes. They can have the most skill in the world. I've seen my best player at Montclair State, my shortstop. Great hitter. She can slap. She's what I call a triple threat. She can slap, she can bunt, and she can hit for power. Okay? I watched this kid go 0 for 1 in a scrimmage, and she was done for the rest of the game. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't feel the ball. She couldn't make a throw to first base. Because it got to her. And I sat her down and I said, listen, if you're going to allow that to happen to you, give me your glove, I'll sell it, I'll get you money for it. Give me your bat, it's probably worth $500. All right, I'll get you that too. I'll split it with you. And go find something else to do. Because if you don't know how to take failing in this game, find a new game. Because this is all about failing. In reality, my definition of a good day at the bat is not the same as a lot of hitting coaches and a lot of coaches. A good day at the bat is going 3 for 3. My good day is hitting the ball hard 3 times. Because if you did your job and they caught your ball, then they did their job. Good for you, good for them. I had a girl who went down to Rutgers, broke every hitting record ever. She still holds them. She was an Olympic player. Her name was Kelly Carlson. She played for me at Fairlawn, and I worked with her all the way up until Fairlawn, and then I cut her off. I couldn't do lessons with her anymore because I would never take her money because she was one of my players. She went on to Rutgers and broke every hitting record. Okay, this kid was phenomenal. Phenomenal. She was a high school All-American. This kid did not allow her head to get to her. She understood. She came to me one day, and after this talk, she said, Coach, you're not going to bench me, are you? I said, what do you mean bench me? She said, I don't know if you know, but I'm 0 for my last 20 at-bats. I said, no, you're not. She goes, no, I haven't gotten on in 20 at-bats. I said, have you walked? No. I said, okay, so you're 0 for 20. Come over here. I want you to look at the scorebook. And in the scorebook, every time a kid hit the ball hard, I put a little green dot. Boom, boom, boom. I said, count your last 20 at-bats. She counted 16 green dots. She hit the ball hard 16 out of her 21 times. I said, in my eyes, you're the most successful player on the team.
Absolutely.
Because Albert, I'm going to leave you with this. Albert Pujols said it best. Take my bad hits away, and I'm a 200 lifetime batting average. All right? Because a hit is a hit is a hit. But the more you hit the ball hard, the better chance you have of getting on base. And in girls softball, I'm going to give you the statistic for boys baseball at the high school level. And UCLA and USC do this statistic every other year. One takes it this year, the next takes it that year, and then they flip baseball and softball. In California in 2017, that's the last statistic I got, out of all the balls at varsity baseball that were hit in the air, okay, in California, high school, they did stats. They got the stats from a lot of the coaches. Out of all the balls hit in the air, 87 of them were outs. 13 of them weren't. The runner got on base. Okay? On the opposite side, 47% of all balls that were hit on the ground, the runner got on base. So where would you rather do? Swing up and hit it in the air, or swing down and maybe get on base? Those are the things that we don't think about. Everybody likes that more. I call it the obla. And your coaching here did it perfectly with your hitters. They hit one to the top and you run back and you go, you're out. Whereas, and that's the ooh ball. Ooh! You know, all the fans, ooh! And then they catch it. Hit the ball in the air and you're out, especially at the highest levels. Okay, so, thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for having me.
Just the one thing that I know we agree on, and we talk so much about it, is it's a science, but there's such a law of probability with it. You know, we talk about hitting the ball on the ground. When I watch, you caught me around, I watch videos every day, but you know, I watched something with Jim Tomey, who was 6'5", 300 pounds of a gorilla that would hit the ball sky high in the air to hit the ball out of the yard. But when he's talking about hitting, he talks about getting his hands down to the ball. He said, in theory, we don't want to hit the ball on the ground. It's not like we want to hit the ball on the ground. That's not what we're teaching. We're teaching you the probabilities. Your hands have to come down to the ball, and you have to stay on the pitch plane as long as you can to increase your probability of making a mistake. Because the pitcher is going to fool you, and he's going to get you off balance. That's their job. They have one job, it's to get you out. That was it. So your job is to ruffle their feathers a little bit. And we got a kid in here, and I was talking to Coach Leon about it. The best hitters to have on a team were guys like Zach and guys like me, not the big dogs that are hitting home runs. Because we're the ones that are fighting things off. We're getting 6, 7, 8 pitch at bats, finding a way on base to get our four-hitter one little cookie to hit it out of the yard. You know, it's a game that just plays for everybody around you. So I was fortunate to have guys around me to win championships with, as opposed to having 9 meatheads that wanted to hit home runs. I had guys like myself or like Zach that knew, all right, I'm a two-hitter. Look at the size of me. How many home runs do I want to hit? I can go up and down and say I hit 21 home runs in college, but I was hitting the 3 home. I had a different job, different role. I had
The 21 home runs in college because he swung like a madman. But he did it right. He did it right. And he missed the spot. That's why,
the whole thing.
you know, you don't get up trying to hit home runs. You know, when you say, hey, what'd you do to that ball? I was just trying to put the meat of the bat on the meat of the ball. That's all. And that happens. All right? And the funny thing about what Greg just said was that putting the ball down in play is a very important thing. And here's the reason why we teach the top half of the ball. That's gravity. Gravity does that to you. So if you're trying to hit the top half and the great hitters miss by the width of a thumb, they're hitting the middle of the ball. And they're going to miss the spot 85% of the time. So with a little kid, they're not going to miss by a thumb. They're going to miss by a fist. Okay? So you got to stay on top of it. And hitting down through the ball, your hands should always start above the strike zone. Because if my hands are in the strike zone, and now you get a pitch up, there's only one way to go at it. Up. You're not going to do this and then try to swing. So always start top and let gravity work with you. Remember, when the bat is coming down at a force to the ground, gravity's pulling it down, but aiding the forward movement. Once you flatten that bat out, now it's taking that barrel and pulling this down while you're trying to swing it. It doesn't work. So all of these things about science, it's such a big part of this game. And like I said, the hardest skill that any athlete is ever going to learn to do is hitting a round ball with a round bat while both are moving. Okay? It's not like golf, where the ball sits there and says, hit me. I mean, how easy is that stupid game? I mean, come on.
It's still stinks. It's not easy.
It's still not easy.
My son has been able to 3 years old, and I still can't fathom how he hits it straight.
Yes.
I can't hit a ball like that.
I mean, and that's all torque. I mean, if you watch a golfer, their feet are not wide like a hitter, but it's all torque. You know, it's the same thing as hitting, the torque of the body. And, you know, these are the important muscles in your spine, your core muscles. I mean, and a lot of people don't understand that. I mean, I had a girl at Montclair, that's where I graduated from. She's 280 pounds. She's our pitcher. She's our first baseman. She's our hitter. I'm going to take her off the bag. She's not playing first. When she's not pitching, she's going to be my DH. But this kid hit like Piazza all up her body. She could not get her core through, but she was never snapping her heel. I mean, she wasn't rotating her foot. So I said to her, Val, come here, look at your video. What are you doing wrong? I don't know, I was never taught. I said, good, well, what you're not doing right is you're not using the power in your body. Your legs are your power. I said, when you swing all up here, and this doesn't even come off the ground half the time. I said, try doing this. Take a water bottle and knock it over. Okay? So she did that 10 times. I said, get up, hit off the tee. She hit balls, I'm guaranteeing you that she hit the ball at 80 miles an hour off of the tee without even thinking about it. I mean, she's 200 and something pounds, just hitting pure power. And now she's hitting like crazy. We scrimmaged Caldwell in the fall. She hit 2 over the fence in one game. I mean, just by rotating her bottom half. One little simple thing.
So I heard there's some train of thoughts that's like squashing the bug is not a
That's
good
exactly.
thing.
I don't
but
like
what do you?
using
Yeah.
it. That's what it is.
Okay.
Squashing
But that is
the
good.
bug.
Yeah.
All right? Because
a
what
lot
a
of-
lot of hitters will do is they'll do this. But watch my body. You want to stay low. You want to keep that bend. So when you rotate and finish, you're finishing with that lean into
Right.
the plate. This shoulder's going to come down and in. This shoulder's going to go back and out. But when you hit level, when you hit with an upper body, this is what happens. And now your weight is back here. But what you want is you want this weight coming into the contact spot. So as you swing, now you're finishing with this angle, a 45-degree angle. So the squashing of the bug, which I don't like using,
Right.
is keeping the balls of the feet on the ground.
Okay.
A lot of hitters do this. Well,
Okay.
if you notice, I'm here, and now when I lift my heel, I'm taking my body, my eyesight out of the line when I'm seeing the ball, and I'm moving up in the air. You don't want to do that. You want to stay down. So yes, squashing the bug is a term. I don't like using that term, but that's what you have to do. Keep that. Stay on the balls of the feet. Just rotate that lower half.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When they come through and to keep their balance after they switch the bug and they're still back and coming through, that back foot coming up.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
I have a hitter.
Yeah.
I think I showed you. I have a hitter that hits with her back foot in the air.
Right.
All right?
That's
Now,
insane.
she was my number 3 hitter until she tore her ACL or her MCL. But she was my number 3 hitter. And this kid was hit, but she was so balanced on that front side. She wasn't overdoing it.
Right.
It was just boom here. But she hit with the foot in the air. And there she will lose power because that's the drive. But I'm not going to fix it until she has a problem. Hit 390 last year as a freshman. You know, I mean, so, you know, I'm a strong believer. If it's not broken, don't fix
Right,
it.
as long
But
as they're balanced.
exactly right. If they're doing something wrong that the pitcher's going to take advantage of, I'll correct it in 2 seconds. But if they're not, and they're hitting the ball, hey, let them go.
Right.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, guys. Have a good
Thanks, Jack.
season.